Welcome, my friends, to Peace, Love, and Bring a Bat, the podcast that never ends, where we gather our clan and talk about the peace and love in our lives, the difficulties along the journey, and how we rise up from them. We will experience a little thing I call Kluberty together, and by the end of the show, we're going to find our sweet spot. I'm Uncle Dave, and our transformation starts right here. Hey now, and how are you doing? Just want to welcome you to the next episode of Peace, Love, and Bring a Bat. Today's an awesome guest. I met this gentleman in December of last year, and man, we just hit it off right away. And I just can't wait to hear some of his stories, some of the inspiring things that he's done. Huey, how are you doing, brother?
What? Dave, man, thanks for having me on your podcast, man. It's amazing. You know, it's like we met last month. I can't even believe it's been a month. I feel like I've been knowing you for longer. And I remember you were the very first person that I met.
Yeah, we were setting up, right? We were setting up for the amazing event with our friend J.R. Spear and the BLN Network. And, you know, that's what you do. You just roll up the sleeves. J.R. had put out the all word bulletin saying, "Hey, who can help out?" I had just checked into my hotel. I was like, "All right, I'll be right down." And you were there. You had just come in as well. And
I did.
Roll up your sleeves and you get it done, man.
And here we are, a month later.
Yeah, and not only that, not only were we amazing, but I also want to say how amazing of an MC. I mean, how you ran the whole day, kept it on schedule, and I know you chose music for each person, and you were like, "Oh wait, I changed my song for you, Dave," and I was like, "What?" And then I didn't know the song. I mean, I'll be honest, the "Be a Leader" by Wajuda. I didn't even know a Wajuda existed until you shared with me the song, and I listened to it. I loved the song, and then I started listening to some other music. I was like, it's one of those things about trying to be open, and that's really what it is you get to meet amazing people like you when you're open. And I want to talk about you being really open about a lot of things, especially in the pandemic, right? The world shut down. What happened to you?
The world shut down, and for me, it was something that really just resonated with my spirit. I really channeled into my spirit, into my intuition, into wisdom, into discernment during that whole phase, because as we all know, everything was chaotic. And so I knew that I could not always listen to what I was saying, but really looking between the lines of what's really happening. And so I had to really gauge on what my spirit was telling me what to do and what not to do. And the thing that my spirit told me to do was, it's your time to shine. It's time to travel like you never have before. And I remember, being a vlogger, I used to struggle with, as people don't like the content, is this enough? I'm not getting enough likes, and I'm doubting myself. And this was like that first time during a crazy pandemic where my spirit was like, we got a game plan, we're going to stick to it, and it's going to work. And so I was literally led off guidance of spirituality for the entire process, and I never stopped. And people thought I was crazy and I lost my mind, but at the same time, people were inspired. I mean, I was inspired. It was like for me, it was like an out-of-body experience, that it was my flesh, but it was like my spirit was guiding my flesh. So I felt like I was two different people at some point. And, I look back on those experiences from time to time, and I just go, wow, like I did that? Little old me from St. Louis, Missouri did all this doing something that we've never encountered, expected, anticipated in our lives before. And it was a life-changing experience for me, and it taught me a lot about myself, about how I respond during, catastrophes, and it really showed me what I'm really here for at the bottom of the day.
Yeah, no, which is awesome, because you decided to make that decision. And really, so what did you learn about yourself? Because we were just talking about actually learning about ourselves and how we sometimes push ourselves beyond what we think we could do, or overcome some of the fears that we experienced.
Mm-hmm. Well, I hate to admit this, to be honest with you, so I'm going to just keep it between you and me and your listeners. I hope no one tells nobody. But I realized that, unfortunately, well, it's fortunate. I don't know. I'm bittersweet that I really work better under pressure.
Mm.
You know, prior to the pandemic, brother, I had all this time to work on content, going to these different countries, and just was just in a just just everywhere. Just I couldn't focus, and it was like as the pandemic happened, I it structured me to be focused, and it really showed me that because to be prepared for what's not even expected, to be prepared that you don't even know what's next. Keep in mind that I was traveling when states were still hotspot states, and only hotspot states had to do extra criteria to move forward and to roam around. And I remember when I went to Aruba, because I live in California, and California is a hotspot state. And I flew, I kept up with all the guidelines. And I flew all the way from California to Florida and stayed overnight. And I was going to fly from Florida to Aruba. And I get to the stand, and he was like, "Oh, you're from California. Um, do you have your documentations for you taking the test for COVID?" And I was like, "Well, I just looked online and they said I didn't need one." Like things were like changing on the
Changing
hour.
hour by hour, right? Yeah.
And I said, "I just checked." He says, "Well, they changed it." I'm like, "What am I supposed to do?" And he was like, "I can't let you through unless you have this documentation." And so he goes, he didn't know I lived in California. So he goes, "Well, if you want to, we can postpone your flight until next Saturday." And I'm like, "I'm not doing that." I was like, "I'm getting on this flight. I don't know how I'm getting on it, but I'm getting on it." And I literally had to sit down, figure it out. And the next thing you know, I was in Aruba later, hours later. So it really taught me to know how to hustle, and when I'm really determined about something, it's something really takes over me to really plow, because we're living through some. I was just talking to a friend of mine on the phone an hour ago, and we're living in some new territory, uncharted territory, and the game has changed, and you have to be able to adapt to the new changes on all the good and bad that's been thrown at us rapidly.
Sure, sure, sure. And I think really, I'm also, I need deadlines. I don't need an ish. I don't need you to say, yeah, I'll call you when I get home. Like, I need you to tell me exactly, we're going to meet at this time. And, I don't need to know everything that's going to happen when we meet or when we do
Right.
stuff. But man, I need to have that opportunity to go so you can plan it, right? I like to plan and control some of what we can control, because we
Right.
know control is really an illusion. You can't control anything, and the only thing you can control is yourself. So
That's right.
so as you're getting to Aruba, you're getting out of the country as the world starts to shut down, and obviously you got to Aruba, and then what
Yeah.
happened?
Well, what's interesting is I was supposed to go to Aruba originally in March of 2020, and the end of March, but of course everything shut down mid-March. So Aruba was one of six countries that opened in the summertime. And I remember when I was telling my fans, I was leaving the country, everybody was like, "Where are you going? What country's open? How did you find a way to get out of bondage?" I'm like, "There's a will, there's a way. When you're determined, you will find it."
Excellent.
So I really went to Aruba for my sanity. I just needed to get away from all the chaos that was happening in the States and, of course, around the world. And I wanted to use this platform and use this opportunity to inspire those who are in bondage, who are in pain, who are scared, confused, and afraid. So I really was preparing a platform for everyone to just be inspired. And I didn't know how that was going to look. I didn't know what it was going to entail, but I knew I had to get out for my own sanity and figure out a way as I was traveling to, help people out. So it was really just having fun and just vacationing. And I just blogged the entire experience. And since everyone was at home or couldn't travel or too scared to travel, be honestly, everyone was tuning in. So when I was realizing I was getting more followers and watch my content, I was like, I'm like, this is a perfect opportunity to really have a niche and be specific in what I'm recording. And I'm like, how can I make this fun? How can I keep people inspired to want to travel during the pandemic, and also put Aruba on the blast on in front line as far as like what's to be offered here. So So I ended up getting tested while I was there. And then I had to stay in the house for 24 hours until my results came.
Mm.
I got an email saying that you're cleared. And brother, I left the house as if I was escaping prison. I'm like, where are we going? What can I shoot? What can I eat? What is offered here? It was an amazing experience. And what's what's so funny is a really good friend of mine. She's one of my best friends, and I remember there was a specific post I posted on my Instagram. She goes, "Ooh, you made everybody mad on this post." And all the post was my shirt, and the back of my shirt it said, I think it says like "always traveling, traveling forever," something like that. And I had some lights, and I had the ocean. So it was like so you see my back, you see my head, and there was the ocean in the background and the foreground, and then it was this the song. And she said, "You just made a lot of people mad on this post." And I went back to watch, and I'm like, "What is it about this post that I'm like? It's nothing really significant about this post except sharing that I'm looking at the water." And she's like, "That's the whole point because most folks can't do that." So after that, I was like, "Okay, that's not my goal. My goal is not to say put dangling carrots in people's faces like, aha, I'm here and you're not." But the goal really was to how can I keep people inspired during this detrimental, as I call it, time. So that was a really good learning curve for me.
Yeah, well, that's the important part, and that's what we all have to always realize is people's perspectives. Like they were all upset because they wanted to be they wanted to be you. Who doesn't want to be Huey, right? But but no, but that's sort of what your platform. I'd like you to talk a little bit more about your platform because you also, I know you believe, the live, love, travel experiences. I can't wait to hear about that because you really embrace the travel during the pandemic and even beforehand. But not only just traveling, it's not like, hey, I'm going here and sharing that, oh, wow, I'm here and I'm cool because I went here. I went to Belize, Brazil. It's also the impact. You didn't just go and sit in a hotel and go, let me do the regular tourist thing. You embrace yourself and you embrace that whole experience. So could you explain to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, every travel blogger is different. And so I had to, when I was rediscovering myself on the traveling side, I was like, who am I? I'm like, I know who I am personally, but who am I as a traveler? And I remember I looked up to certain role models and I was actually trying to follow their forte and it just was not working. So pre the pandemic, I was trying to be somebody else that I wasn't. And it was frustrating. And so really the pandemic really helped me to become my own. I love cultural experiences. So that's something I always gotta have forever, man. I love when I travel, I like to be where the locals are at. I want to stay in the residential neighborhoods. I don't care about the five-star hotels. The only time I would stay in one is during my birthday, but even that's hard for me to do. I have to pressure myself to do something, but I just like to keep it simple. I like to keep it real, raw, rad, and authentic because I feel like that's where the experience really is. Now, there's nothing wrong with five-star. There's nothing wrong with people living their lives, doing what they want to do. But for me, I feel like there's an area that needs to be more exposed. Communities in these different countries need to be more exposed. I mean, all the great areas are all saturated, and it's good to go to, get your Instagram shot ready, but there's more to offer. And so the locals, when you meet with a local man, they take you to some cool areas that are like non-saturated and get even cheaper food and even better food. So it's like I live for those experiences, and I also like adventure, and I also like to challenge myself on adventures, which I'll do. But I think the biggest challenge for me is food. Like I'm a very particular, very picky, very specific eater. So for me to be trying new foods that's like exotic, that's area where I really need a little help.
Yeah, no, but
I'm not quick on that.
yeah, and that's really kind of what we do, but taking those chances and really experiencing as a local, and that's really so much powerful because you also do. I mean, if I looked at it, and I don't know enough about it, so I'd love to hear about it. You were part of some documentaries, and you were helping some people in the locales that you attended, that you went to. Is that right?
Yeah, so I did. more of the vlogging
Hmm.
aspect. When I went to Belize, thanks to another vlogger, I went to this community and they call themselves the Garifuni people, and it was a good cultural experience where we spent like 7.5 hours with them. We learned about their culture. That was 2 hours. Then we learned about their plants. Then we got the chance to prep a meal from scratch.
Mm.
We made some hoodoo. It was one of the most amazing soups that I've ever had, and to this day, I still think about it. Oh my God, it was. It's those experiences I live for, and I got to learn about, that they were taken over by the British, and they fought the British for 150 years, all because of cassava bread. Cassava bread is what saved their lives.
Mm.
And I was like, how did cassava bread save your lives for 150 years from fighting off the British? He says, well, this was the jungle, and this is how we survived. And one of the things I don't think I think people overlooked was the soldiers when they were out in the fields. They um, netted footprints on where all the cassava bread was, and the forest. And he said, so if someone died, they find their helmet, they know where to find the cassava bread. I'm like, that is
Oh, wow.
genius.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So it's stories like that, that I enjoy telling, stuff that we don't know that's intriguing and that should be, mainstream. So I'm just doing whatever I can in the niche that God has had me in to bring forth whatever that's not been exposed. And you talked about the live, love, travel experience, and I would just dive into that. So God really gave me this name, the Live, Love, Travel Experience. I had no idea what it was going to be called. And so I remember I was like, what is, I'm like that, each word should have a meaning. And I
Mm.
remember on my birthday in Costa Rica, 2019, everything literally just flew out of my mouth. I was doing a birthday vlog to say thank you for everyone, to say, wish me happy birthday. And literally out of my mouth came, live your life, love always, travel as often as you can so you can experience the encounters that are waiting for you. And that is what the Level Up Travel Experience is about.
That is so awesome. I love that you explained that. Thank you so much. And
You're
uh,
welcome.
and you have. I mean, I was looking at it. I mean, you went hang gliding in Brazil. So I saw a picture of that, and I was like, "Holy moly!" So of course you had the picture in Rio with Christ the Redeemer.
Yeah.
I guess that's the Instagram, right? You have to. You're in Brazil, you have to do that. But
Right.
but you had,
Oh my God, you did your homework, man. You studied.
yeah, I wanted to bring it for you. I didn't want to just be like, all right, here, let's do it. But I love that. But and we were talking in the green room how I'm fearful of heights, and I overcome that. And then you've had some things that you've overcome with your fears.
Yeah. And if we do this for the intro, it's water. Water was my biggest fear, and I overcame it last year. It took me 30 years, but it was baby steps. Like if there's different things I've done throughout the years, taking a cruise, just being over water, being in a swimming pool, going underwater. Okay, the next step is just to put my feet in the ocean. Okay, let me at least go 5 feet in the ocean. Next step was let me get all the way in the ocean. And the next step was let me put my head in the ocean.
Yeah,
So
well,
it was a process.
it's that scary thing to face. I told you the story that I knew I was fearful of heights, but I still, when they allowed you to do it, walked up Chichen Itza. And when you realize, I don't know if you've done it, but I saw through your pictures and your vlogs that you've been to a bunch of the pyramids in Mexico, and these are huge things. For those who don't know about it, the top of Chichen Itza is about 300 feet above the treetops. So you get up there and you're really just focusing on each, or I was focusing on each step as you get up, and then you finally get up there and you look down, and not only is it the angle, and you're like, all right, but then it's like, all right, wow, and you see trees that you just walked through the mango groves and stuff like that, and you're like, those were pretty serious sized trees, and you're way above that. It's more than just flight. It's a different experience, and that's what, I guess hang gliding is, and there's a part of me that wants to do that, man. I gotta work on that.
I would love to encourage you. It is safe. It is so peaceful. You don't feel anything. You literally just glide with the birds and eagles, and you're just soaring. It was an amazing, peaceful experience. And I like it because it was tandem. You were with someone. I wouldn't have done it if it was something I had to do by myself because I don't trust myself to be up in the air like that. When I skydived, I skydived in Australia, and that was fun. But you feel a dip. When they repel the parachute, you go up, like you feel that. I feel like that was the scariest part. But the paragliding, it was a piece of cake. I'll do it again.
Okay.
I'll do that again before I skydive, and I do want to skydive again.
All right. So, with all your experiences, what do you have planned on next?
Great question. So I'm literally, as we speak, in the process on booking that next location. The trip is booked. I'm working on lodging. I'm working on making things practical and experiences. It has been somewhat frustrating. This is probably the country that is really making me work. And I had to reach out to a lot of sources because when I travel, I like to make sure that everything makes sense. And I also like to leave a little room for a little creativity for me to be surprised. I don't like being too surprised. I like a little surprise. But I feel like this is one of those trips where I literally have to plan everything out. It's been a lot of struggles. When we finish this podcast, I'm going right back to the books because my goal is to have everything solidified. My goal is to have everything solidified this month. Now, I typically do not tell anyone where I'm going until I post because I'm all about being mysterious and I'm all about surprises. And I like to tell everybody at one time.
All right, no, that's all fair. So I hear we're not going to ask you where you're going, but I hear that, and I can't wait to see and hear the experiences.
But listen, I'll give you and your followers a hint. Give you guys a little scoop. Be on the lookout. Late spring.
Late spring. Well, I guess after the BLN, you're going to run out of town. You're going to run out of the country after BLN, man. All that trouble that's going to happen in St. Louis. Being back in St. Louis with all those guys, I wish I could be there to be part of that. So, okay, so you've been all over. I mean, again, we said hang gliding, Rio de Janeiro. You've been to Africa. You've been to Tanzania. You've been to Colombia. And I saw that picture right next to a car that was shot up by somebody who is world renowned.
Very notorious.
Yeah. Where's your bucket list? Because, one of the things that this past year, so I think you might have met Emilio Roman during that week, and I was talking to him, and next year he's going to help me take one more thing out of my bucket. He's having an event in South Africa. And I've never done a safari yet in South Africa. So I'm like, January, guess what? Dude, man, I'm in. So where's some of your bucket list places?
Oh, first of all, I'm going to tell you, you are going to it was one of the best experiences I've ever had when I was in Kenya. And I remember I ended the trip in Kenya and I came back to the States. And I wanted to see some friends at home. And one of my friends said, meet me at the zoo. I said, girl, I just saw wild animals. Breathe. Why in the hell will I be going to the zoo to see some caged animals? No. Well, I'll tell you this. I'm actually getting ready to check 2 off my bucket list that everyone will see this spring. So I'm really excited about that. Okay. And another country where I'm really interested in going is Ghana. I
sure.
love Ghana. Switzerland really stands out to me. I would like to go to what's the other S one? Switzerland, Sweden.
Sure.
Those are 3, and Italy. Oh gosh, I've been trying to go to Italy for so long. So those are 4.
So you've not been to Italy yet?
I was supposed.
Oh
to
my
go
God!
year.
Yeah.
I know it's amazing. But I've learned in life that everything is all about timing.
Hmm. Sure.
Everything is about timing. And I'm always reminded when I'm going through experiences that it's about timing. I remember I wanted to go to Australia. I had been wanting to go to Australia for 15 years, and Australia ended up being the very first country that I went to for my birthday. And I saw the pieces how it had to be lined up because one of the things I learned before I went is Australia is a country that you don't want to go alone because it's very big and you can be bored. Well, you see the San Francisco
Yeah.
bridge right behind me. So when I moved to San Francisco, I ended up joining a church, and our pastor was from Sydney. And I was like, this is a sign. I'm like, if this is not a sign, and I just kind of kept that to myself. And one day he says that they have annual conferences there every year. He says, but they're not doing it. He says, they're not doing it this year. They're doing it next year. And I've always wanted to go for my birthday. And he says, I said, well, when is the next conference? He says, next year. I said, when next year? He says, April. I go, when next year, April? He says, like April 18th through the 28th. I said, that's during my birthday. So I'm like, all right, this is a sign.
If that's not a sign from God, not only were you at the church, who's the pastors from Australia, which is you wanted to go, and it's dead square in where your birthday is. That's one of those things that, like I know that there's going to be times when I pass on and God says, I gave you signs for certain things. You didn't listen to it. That was a clear sign.
Very clear. And so I live by those. So one of the countries that I have to keep anonymous for right now, there's another country I've been trying to go for 15 years, but I'm finally going. And I cannot wait to get the experience that's waiting for me. So even though I wanted to go to Italy last year versus going to Spain, I want to go to Italy. And it just didn't work out with me and my mom and trying to get there. So I'm just like, you know what? It just wasn't the right time. But you know what? I still have on my bucket list. I'll aim it for next year. If it's not time, then it's going to be there until it's time.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. I mean, but you've been to so many places. I mean, Italy, I've been to, and I can't just imagine I can't wait to see your vlogs on really the experience because I know I've gotten lost purposely in like Florence. One time I was there walking and we literally walked out of Florence. And I remember coming back to the hotel. I did stay at a nicer hotel and we got back and we're like, all right, is the kitchen still open? Because nothing else was really open. They were like, yeah, sure. We'll get you something. And where did you walk? I go, it said, there was a sign that says, Firenze, which is Florence, and with a line through it. He goes, where were you? And we were like showing him on the map and he's like, I'm glad you're back home. It was just, and but I've had some great stories. I mean, in Venice, there was walking through, the streets, and one time helping an old lady across the canals, and so I'm holding her bag, so like I'm helping her. So she was polite. She knew it was the language issue, and then all of a sudden we get to the side. She didn't need me anymore, and she's like waving me on, and I'm like, all right, I wasn't expecting anything, but I was like, she was this old woman. She reminded me of my great grandmother, and here she is hanging. Like it was like 7 bags, really, there's no car there. It's all boats and canals. But that's the experiences that I love talking about.
That's the experience.
Yeah.
Well, I know one thing. I'm definitely going to get in contact with you before I go for sure. So
yeah, I love it, man. I want to go back. But there's so many places. How do you decide? So, this is a big rock that we're flying through. How do you decide where? I don't want to know where. I get the hints. But how do you decide where you want to go? So obviously you shared that Italy is one of the places, but there's so many places. You've been to so many interesting places, and I guess
I think what you just asked is a really good question. This is a question that I don't get asked often, but I think it's a very pertinent question. I'm really led by the Spirit on where I need to go. So typically around every January, December, I would tune into my spirit and go, where do you want to go? And I would just get quiet. And it may not be that day, but around those 2 months, it'll tell me, this is where we need to go. This is where we need to go. And for instance, let's talk about Panama for 2 minutes. Never had an interest, never wanted to go. in this lifetime. I was like, that's one country where I'm just not, I don't need to go in the flesh on this earth. And I went to Panama for my birthday last year. And once again, it's December, January. So around this time, I always tune in. And my spirit said, Panama. And I said, Panama? I don't want to go to no Panama. I was in Panama. I never wanted to go. And I was, for once, struggling with what my spirit was telling me on where we needed to go. So I was like, God, you have to confirm this somehow another way because I don't want to go. And brother, I'm David. I'm telling you, during that season, I was getting signs left and right. Commercial, Panama. It had just randomly come out of somebody's mouth. Panama. I meet somebody. They're from Panama. I'm like, oh gosh, I'm seeing the signs. Like you said, are you going to ignore the signs or are you going to listen to God? I'm just like, I was doing one of those. And this was the two final straws for me. Now I'm an MC for a dancing competition, and typically when a group or a person wins, the director will come up to that group and ask them questions. And the name of the piece that won first place was called Vacation. So my boss came up to the girls. He goes, well, since the title of your dance is called Vacation, tell me somewhere where that's on your bucket list that you want to go. And one of the girls said, Panama. I was like, you know what? And this came from like an 8-year-old. I was like, okay, you win. You win. I'm going to freaking Panama. So, I started looking up, the flights and all that stuff. Still not happy, but I was going. And then after I booked my flight, I got confirmation. So that friend that I was telling you about who said that she reached out to me and said, when I posted that post,
yeah, she wasn't happy with the you got people angry, yeah.
People weren't happy. So she has a podcast. It's called Boss Ladies Conversations, and as she was developing her podcast, they did like a trial, and I said, how is it going? She says, oh, I'm looking at all the demographics that's been viewing our podcast. I said, who are your number one listeners? And she goes, Panama. I was like, okay. I was like, God, you win. I'm going. And I'm going to tell you something. I had the time of my life. I really like it when God surprises me beyond my expectations. Like when my expectations are very low about something and he just exudes them. And I'm like, wow, it was amazing. Like I had no idea that Panama had islands. I had no idea. I went to one of the, it was amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Well, that's what happens when I know when I was learning a bunch of stuff, one of my mentors said, surrender. Once you surrender, really no outcomes, no anything, the magic happens and you get multiplied. As you just said, more than you can ever imagine. And, like for me, when people say Panama, I'm like, yeah, it would be cool to see the Panama Canal. And I'm like, and I remember talking to somebody saying, that's not even anything. Like you almost don't have to see the Panama Canal. And, yeah. You can't hear me? How about now? Can you hear me? You're low. Might have lost it on your side.
Hello.
I can hear you, but you're low. You sound really low. I haven't moved anywhere.
I saw a word that said muted.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay, there you are.
Yeah, there you are. I can hear you. Yeah, I don't know why it went muted. I haven't touched anything. I promise.
Okay. No, it's okay. I saw a word that came up and said muted. I'm like, muted? I'm like, I didn't mute anything, but go ahead.
Okay, but yeah.
What your friend said surrender.
Yeah, so we'll go back. So surrender. It really is once you can give up of yourself and not worry about the outcomes, God will multiply exactly what you need to be multiplied. And that's really the magic that I think you bring. I think that's why I love when you said, you'll live, love, travel experiences, and that there's a meaning behind each word. Yeah, no, so it's amazing because, as a 17-year-old, that's been the change for me, is that I started thinking about what I was doing at 17 and what I knew. I mean, At 18, one of my first flights, like solo flights, I'll tell you, I did fly out to San Francisco. My girlfriend went to Stanford, and
Oh,
yeah, I couldn't get it to Stanford unless they had me like sweeping the floors or something. But so I went out there, and when you go to college, you remember those days, especially back, you and I are around. I'm still older, but they would give you that first credit card, right? You start getting all those credit cards. What am I going to do with it? So I went out to my girlfriend in San Francisco, and man, what I did is I left on a Friday. I cut school, and I got back Sunday night. So I was really only like, this is the most expensive flight ever, but it was the coolest thing because I surprised her, not we. Well, I guess her roommate helped me. But
oh,
yeah,
nice.
yeah, it was great. But it was one of those things that I tell my kids about it because I don't want them to hear about it or anything like that. But I said, you have to be smart about it. Like, I wasn't smart. Like, if there was something that went wrong, yeah, I would have got in trouble. That's the easy part, right? You can get over, the trouble, but somebody else should have known exactly where I was, because even my girlfriend didn't know until she came back from her jog that I was coming. Like, her roommate knew, but her roommate would have never, like, it was just a weird story, and it all worked
No,
out.
you're right. It's great, but you caught that lesson at an early age. It really, that didn't hit me. I travel a lot, and I mean, I told my mom, but I never gave her like major details. I'm pretty secretive, but it took a life experience to like really let a few people know where I was, because in Colombia, I was in Bogota. It's people tell me it's a very dangerous city, and
Yeah.
I don't think there's any other dangerous city than St. Louis, Missouri, where I'm from, unless it's Chicago or Baltimore. And I used to live in Chicago too. And someone pulled out a knife on me and tried to stab me in my back.
Wow.
And several times. I mean, it happened so fast, and I mean, just which every
Well,
move that I was dodging, I missed him and putting that incision in my back with that knife. And I remember going from that moment, I'm like, okay, I need to let people know even more details about my life, So, yeah, it's important.
yeah, no, it is important. In fact, about Bogota, I know how dangerous it is because my cousin is adopted, and so he went there. He went by himself. He was like, I'll just go by myself. I'll figure this thing out. And so he went there as an American, and and he's taking pictures. It was like one of the May Day parades or a parade that the military was down the street, and he's taking pictures. They broke his camera and took the film out. I mean, like, really, and this was maybe
Wait, who's they?
the military, the people. He had people. It was military guys who came in out of nowhere in Bogota and just did that, and he was almost scared to go back out because people were telling him not to go down this street, that street, but the military. And they had the parade down the middle of the street. It wasn't that he didn't like climb over a fence, and
Right.
they wanted no pictures of what they were doing. And because he looks like a Colombian, I mean, he is Colombian, and man, every time I tell him that story, he turns white. So he's like, but he learned that the next time he went to try to find his to his biological parents, he took smarter. He planned in advance. So that's one of the things that I'd love to ask you. When you know where you're going, how much planning do you do? Because I know we talked about wanting to be with the people, not just the tourist spots. How much do you start to get to know people before you hit the ground?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I rely on my contacts. Like where I'm going right now, I'm talking to one, two, three, four, five different people who are actually in these countries, and they're giving me the lowdown and the spiel on restaurants and areas. And I'm reading reviews on Airbnb. Then I'll go join a group on Facebook and ask questions. So it's really a lot. I mean, I ain't gonna. I'll be honest, it's exhausting, but If I'm looking for the best experience for myself and to provide for my followers, then for me, it's worth it.
Okay, no, that's awesome. So how would somebody find it? So like just if I want to go to someplace, what would you? So you would say, if I heard you correctly, the check out the blogs and check out the vlogs for people who've already gone there, and maybe reach out to you. And we definitely want to get your contact information so people can reach out to you and follow you and travel the
Yes.
world.
Listen, one of my favorite things I enjoy doing, you know what brings me so much joy, David? I really love the fact when someone calls me, texts me, or email me and say, hey, I need some information about this country. What can you give me? Like to give service like that really brings joy to me. Like I get jealous if they ask somebody else. Like I really like to be that to go to guy too, because I love tour guiding. Like that's just who I am as a person. It's fun. So find me. I'm on both platforms on social media, on Instagram and Facebook. Look me up by my name, Huey Scott, or you can put in the Live Love Travel Experience, and you can find me on either handle.
All right,
And I wanted to say this too. We talked about in closing something to leave the audience. And I've talked about traveling and how traveling is really important for culture, for a personal experience, interpersonal, and for your soul. But while you're traveling, and no matter what you do in your life, and I'll leave you with these words: never be desperate, be destined.
mm, man, talk about a mic drop. Wow, that's awesome. All right. Well, I'm glad that we were destined to meet each other, and I can't wait to meet you more. I really, I keep telling Jr. Man, I talk about that fear of missing out, man. To miss the BLN in March, but I'm going to be in LA at the beginning of March, and then I have another speaking gig at the end of the month. And with my 17-year-old daughter, I can't leave her. I can't leave a 17-year-old for a month gone, man. That is trouble in so many ways.
Yeah. Wait a
But
minute. So when are you going to be in LA?
I'm going to be in LA March 3rd, 2nd through the 5th.
That's a weekend, right?
Yeah, it's a weekend.
Okay. Dag, I think I'm going to be on the East Coast.
Yeah, we flip flop, but
We're flip flopping.
yeah,
Yeah.
but anytime you're in or around New York, let me know, man. I would love
Yeah.
to connect.
Wait, you know what? You know what? I will. I actually have the Long Island show.
Where?
I don't have the deep. Oh my gosh! But maybe this counts you out. Can
Yeah,
you still hear me?
I can still hear you. Yeah, sure, I can still hear you.
Okay, so David, it just hit me. I will be in Long Island in uh oh, my calendar is not gonna. I'm gonna text. Wait.
Okay, yeah,
Okay,
text me later because I guarantee you might be no more than 10 minutes
okay.
away from my house.
So I'm gonna be in Long Island the end of March, March 31st, April 1st, April 2nd.
Oh, that's the weekend I'm going to be in Philly. But let me know when you're coming in, and let's see what we could do on
Okay.
timing. Because
Okay.
my guess is you're going to be somewhere within 10-15 minutes from me. There's some great hotels where they have lots of halls and things like that. That's what I'm speaking on Sunday. I'm speaking at the Huntington Hilton.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah. So I'm that's why I'm this year, man. Again, God's been good to me. That last year there's a lot of headwinds to hold me back from things, but this year, man, the wings are flying.
Nice. I love it. Yeah, and soar like an eagle.
Well, that's what I always say. That's the name of my book, right? When your heart says it's your time to soar. So my friend, I really hope for you that you keep soaring and experience it. And I can't wait to be traveling with you. If
Yeah.
not physically, definitely a little, fear of missing out. But I definitely love to keep seeing it because I've loved watching the pictures that you shared, and I love sharing with you. You're such an amazing human being.
Likewise, likewise. And I can't wait till we next time we reconnect.
All right, definitely. So can't wait to hear all the places you're going to go to. And for everybody else, well, follow Huey because you definitely want to get some peace and love from that because he's such a great human being and you will find peace from all the locations he's at. And when you're bringing a bat, find your sweet spot and knock it out of the park. Thanks. I'm really glad that you're enjoying our show. Peace, Love, and Bring a Bat is brought to you by Launchpad 516 Studios. Executive produced by David Chemetsky and George Andriopoulos. Music selections by James Grant, Zach Nelson, and James Gaither, and licensed through Storyblock. Sound effects and sponsorship music licensed through Epidemic Sound. Peace, Love, and Bring a Bat is hosted with Podbean. Subscribe to our show wherever podcasts are available. And don't forget to leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and share with all of your friends. Follow us on Facebook at Peace, Love, and Bring a Bat. Follow me, Uncle Dave Chemetsky, on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Clubhouse. You can find all those links and more info at davidchemetsky.com. For show ideas, feedback, guest inquiries, or just a chat, reach out to me at peacelovebringabat@gmail.com. For sponsorship and media inquiries, reach out to peacelovebringabat at lp516.com. Make sure to follow all the great podcasts produced by Launchpad 516 Studios. Today's journey has come to a close, my friends. I hope the seeds of peace and love continue to grow for each one of you. Remember that peace and love surrounds you and will assist you to rise again. But don't forget to bring it back for what you believe in. Namaste.